Welcome back, Freelancers Undefeated Rescue, and we're continuing with the Gear Showcase series. Back in the social hub, decent amount of people in here, pretty early in the morning, but we'll head on to Bastion and go over some gear. Okay, so we're back in a dungeon, and we are on GM1. And we're continuing with the grenades, the Ranger grenades, and we are going over Grand Opening. So, Grand Opening is an upgraded secret grenade, splits into seeking munitions, and then its masterwork perk is Striker's Fury. Hitting enemies grants 100% increased weapon damage for 20 seconds. Now, I've also tested this, and it also does work towards melee, so I've kind of synergized a little bit of build around the melee too to show that off, but we'll go in and showcase it off. Alright, so the way this grenade works is you throw out like a grenade into like normal, and then when it hits the ground it splits up and then seeks out enemies. And you can get it to blow up in the air because it has a distance to where it will explode regardless where you set it. Like right there you saw how it like blew up in the air. So that's kind of like how it works. Like it does have a designated point, like it's not going to wait to split up till it hits the ground. There's a specific area where it will explode. I'm trying to see if I can throw it somewhere to where it's pretty obvious it just separates in the air. So it didn't actually hit anything right there, and it just splits up on its own. And same with that one. That one didn't actually hit that, it just split up. So let's see if we can do it over here. So it's like a weird trajectory you kind of have to pay attention to. But you can see when I hit something, it just, when it separates, it automatically gives me Striker's Fury, which is 110% for weapon damage and melee. And then it's like, I haven't really timed it how long it takes before they go off. But, I mean, if there's a target nearby, it's going to go straight to them anyways. So that's a really neat little thing about it. And then kind of going over it a little bit more, because I think I was getting attacked. That's why I want to rush in there and take those out. So it's not a detonator or a primer on its own. There is a way to make it a primer, and I'll go over that in GM3 because I'm going to need it there. But for the blast damage, it does about 4,000 damage, and that's actually per seeker sub-munitions. That's not actually for the whole thing. So it does pretty good damage, because I think there's like 4 to 6 that pop out. We can count them as soon as we get back into it. And then the recharge is 12, which is, it's a little high. Not really. It's about, for the ones that explode, it's kind of right. Actually, wait a minute. Nope, I was 100% wrong. It's got the highest recharge. For some reason, I thought it was lower. It's actually got the highest recharge out of all the gear in here. So that's a downfall, unfortunately. It's only about one more than the other detonators. It's not a detonator though, but then in comparison to Last Argument, actually just compared to Last Argument, so it's one above Last Argument. So that kind of like really knocks it down on the tier list. And then the radius is 2. That's just from where that little explosion happens when they're on the ground separated. That's what that's referring to as, is that radius. They will seek out targets and they will blow up in a radius of 2. So that's kind of like one of those things you kind of have to understand, like the mechanics of it and how it works, because it's not, I don't think that's a very accurate description of how the radius operates, but it's one of those things you're gonna have to mess around and play with on your own. The good thing is with Striker's Fury, you will keep the master perk for about 20 seconds, but it's really not that hard to, like you said, like I was just showing you, like I just throw it at whatever and it's just gonna automatically proc, where it says hitting an enemy grants the perk. So but on mine I've got a couple extra charges, and then I've got 100 extra gear damage, so just take that into mind when you see me run through here with it. Alright, we'll go through and clear out some more enemies. And then you see how, like, so this is what's really good if you throw in like a group is I think it is in fact 6, but like it'll automatically seek out the enemy types. So like I'll throw it over here and it's too far away to pick them up. However, I throw it over against that wall, it did seek them out. So it's got to be sort of close enough to figure it out, but it's not too hard to like figure out their trajectory, and you can kind of like look it over and kind of like plan how you want to throw it. I see, like right there, I wasn't even trying to hit them, they just happened to walk around the corner. But it looks like there's only 4 of the sub-munitions that come out. And if anyone runs through here, they will automatically track to them. Kind of like with that guy where he came around the corner and I threw it up here. As soon as they came by, it went straight to him. And I still got Striker's Fury. I haven't hit anything in a minute. So in G1, it's going to do really good. The main reason I think it does really good in GM1 is because at this point combos aren't like the main source of DPS, right? In GM1, you really can just come in here like a weapons build and get away with that without having a lot of synergy. So cool, it took down the shielded gunner and their health in one nade. And then this is where you're going to have a lot of good results with it, because you can just throw it here in spawning groups and it will be just all over the place. It'll just separate between all of them. It's even hitting enemies before they've even spawned in. But I'm going to go ahead and clear these guys out, and then we will find some armored enemies. So we'll throw it down here and see if it'll track up. So you see how like it tracks all the way around? It's really good at tracking. That's the one takeaway from this that's really good. You see if they're primed right now, and I've got striker strength, so I've got 110% extra melee or weapon damage. Okay, I'll clear these guys out, and then we will take on the ranger. Alright, I'm going to wait for Striker's Fury to dissipate, and then I'm going to show off like the melee. Okay, so it's me and the ranger. We'll let him do the roll, and I'll talk about what I'm about to do. So I'm going to showcase here like the difference between having striker strength and not having it, so you understand like the melee and weapon damage. So just keep in mind, I'm doing about, oh geez, I'm going to take him down. Shoot. I'm doing about 16,000 damage. I'm trying to think about this. I don't want to kill him all the way. So I'll just go ahead and take him out with the seeker mines or seeker grenades, and then I'll showcase it separately. So it takes a shield all the way down, and it takes a decent amount of health off of them. It should finish them off. So that's pretty good. Unfortunately, I didn't get to show it too well in GM1, but we'll show it better in GM3. Okay, future defeated rescue here, and I'm going to showcase how to proc the striker strength and how it does apply both to melee and weapon damage. So about 2,300 damage to the scorpions for the weapon, and then about 15 for melee. So now we got striker strength, and we're getting about 5,000 for weapon damage, and then 20,000 for melee. Okay, cool. Okay, so we are currently in GM3, and we're still on the for the ranger, we're still on the grand opening, which is the upgraded seeker grenade. So here's the thing about it, and this is why I'm going to have to explain the build I'm using. So what I'm going with as I'm using is for my assault launcher, I'm using recurring vengeance. So every time I detonate a combo, I'm going to get 100% charges back for this. And then I'm using Vanguard's Rampart because I want to be able to detonate combos. And you're probably wondering, well, other than your weapons, because they are primers, why are you going so heavily on detonators? Well, because I'm going to use Grand Opening as a primer. And then the way I'm going to do that is with Victor's Resolve. Nope, sorry. Elemental Ops. All right, so with Elemental Ops, it increases fire damage, max heat capacity by 50%, and fire resistance by 50%. On a hit streak of 5, applies acid damage on the target. So I'm kind of treating this the same way I would treat Ember's Lance in that video, where I am basically turning a piece of gear that's not a primer or a detonator into a primer. The Ranger is really the only one that has this option. I wish all the other javelins had the ability to do that kind of stuff too, and that's where you're going to see, like when I throw out the grenade, I'm going to potentially prime them. And the way that's going to have to work, because as we were showcasing earlier, there's only 4 nades there, right? Ooh, okay, now there's 8. Wait, what? Okay. Okay. Anyways, when I throw this nade out, it's going to have enough to cause them to get primed, because I only have to have a hit streak of 5. So as you can see, like they got, they did get primed. This one did not, though. Uh-oh. Oh, okay, there they are. Now they're primed. Okay, I think I'm getting a little server feedback. But so now it's a primer, right? Which makes it a lot more viable. Unfortunately, that I'll talk about it at the end of the video, and we'll just kind of go through it and kind of showcase the rest of it off. Ooh, they died from that. Yeah. Okay, so it's not bad at taking down the GM3 grunts. Pretty good at that. Let's test it against a shield. So it does about half against their shield. Let's see if we can prime them though. We can, and we detonate a combo. So we'll go ahead and just finish them off here. Okay, nice. So let's see if we can prime these guys. So the priming, if it's not killing them, is pretty consistent for the most part. I have had like mixed issues with it. That's just the way Elemental Op works, unfortunately. But because I have Striker Strength now, I should be doing a lot more damage. And actually just primed them, because that Elemental Ops continued on from the ones that hit them. And now they're primed. And now I can just hit them. So on tankier enemies, it's really good at helping prime, so it's really helping you deal with those enemy types. And then if you can't finish them off, you got Reoccurring Vengeance or whatever. It doesn't have to be this build. I just enjoy using this build. And it's the one I had more consistency with than anything else. So raining Legos today. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and here we go. Let's take this guy out. All right, so the shield gunner took out their shield. Because it took out a majority of their shield from the hits, they didn't get applied the acid effect. They have it now. They do not. And but it can take them out in GM3. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and clear out the storm and the rest of these enemies and look for some armored enemy types. All right, so we got some armored enemy types over here. So it doesn't look like any of them got, okay, so we got one back there that did get primed. As far as doing damage, they're armored, so they're going to be a bit more tankier. And it looks like priming them is going to be a little bit harder too. So here's the thing about using Elemental Ops. It's not, it depends on, it's easier with Ember's Lance than it is with this, because you have to depend on the grenades to go to specific targets. And then when they're grouped up like that, that's kind of hard. Like, this guy will not prime because I'm just not hitting him enough. Yeah, now he's primed. It's just so inconsistent, it's hard to make proc. So I think Ember's Lance, if you're trying to do that, is a little bit easier, but it's still a viable option. It's still an option to use. Okay. We'll go ahead and take out the Ranger. Alright, so it takes out the majority of their shield with just one. And then they are primed. Nice. So that was good. They did automatically get primed. Alt. Wow, I'm stuck. Alright, hopefully they didn't get the shield back. They did. That's alright. Let's take it down real quick. Okay. So let's do about 12,000 damage per nade. Per Seeker. Now they're primed again, so we can just kind of keep knocking them down with that. And because it's acid, it's going to weaken them. And that should take them out. Yeah, okay. Alright, so is it efficient? Well, okay, so it's got the highest recharge out of all the grenades. So I don't know if you probably couldn't tell because I have a lot of extra charges in my recharge build. I was running out of these pretty often. It's pretty good at doing base damage, but when you get to GM3 and even GM2, you really need to start doing combos. So pretty much anything that's not that's not going to be doing combos, is really going to be punishing you. But the recharge is the highest out of all the grenades. You only start off with one charge technically, unless you have rolls with more. And then, because it doesn't prime on its own, it's not very efficient. I have to bring a component in, which means I have to make a build with other things. I can't just throw this on any build, is what I'm trying to get at. You know, like with anything that automatically primes or detonates, typically you can just throw it on whatever build. I can't do that here. I have to make a build kind of around it, which kind of affects some of the other things as well. So efficiency-wise, no, I'm going to say it's not very efficient at all. Doesn't mean a build can't be made around it. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, efficiency-wise, compared to the other grenades, it's not. It's not as efficient as other options. And then viability. Well, so this is only going to be for the Ranger, pretty much all gear, because you can pretty much because it has at least 4 that are coming out. You can essentially have a 5-streak hit with this one grenade, because essentially what you could do, and what I kind of wanted to show, but I was having 8, and I think that might have been a glitch. When you hit them initially, that first hit, as you can see, I perk Striker's Fury, so that is a hit. So when the grenade itself hits an enemy, then it splits into 4 separate ones, and if all 4 of those hit that enemy type, that's how it's going to have the 5-hit streak for elemental ops to get you to prime the enemy type. Yes, it's viable with elemental ops, but it's not easily viable. Because as you can see with some of the enemy types in here, especially with the armored enemies, when I was throwing it, I would hit them with like pretty much 2 volleys, but the grenades would split up because they're just tracking whatever. They're not all going to like the nearest enemy. Well, they might be, and maybe that's why they were splitting up. It is because they don't go towards a specific enemy type. They don't all go to the same enemy type. They'll split up between them, and if you're not launching all of them on that enemy type, you're not gonna proc elemental ops on that enemy. So it's not going to be consistent, which kind of questions the viability in my opinion. Still can make a build around it. I need to make sure I'm making that clear. It's just it's going to be a hard to use build. Okay, and then is it fun? I actually never really realized that you could prime with elemental ops with this, because I never really thought about that. And then the fact that it gives you Striker's Fury, which means your weapon damage and your melee will get 110% extra damage. It's just kind of nice. It's not super useful, but it's nice. It's an okay build. I've been running this build for about a week now, just playing around with it, trying to see really make a build around this to see what I can do with it. And I really haven't had too much trouble with it. I've gone through several strongholds with it, and I've gone through several missions, and I've never really been like the person holding my team back. So it's not bad. It's okay. I'm probably not going to keep this as a dedicated build, but it's okay to mess around with from time to time. And then, yeah. Overall, I guess I'm going to say I would not waste coin on this. I wouldn't waste too much space on them either. I would keep a couple if you get them in Lego drops, if you get really good rolls. Personally, I believe that you're going to want one that has a lot of charges on it, because then you can use that one, because one, it has the highest recharge out of all the grenades, so you're going to want them with a lot of recharge. But I think having like 200 gear charges and then 100 gear damage, or maybe 150 gear damage, or whatever max rolls you can get for these two, is probably going to be preferred. I think if you get anything less than, I suppose if you got 300 gear charges on one and then like no damage roll or something like that, or 200 and then 100 gear charges, that probably wouldn't be too bad, because like you can still use it as a primer, and then you'll have a bunch of them you can just spam around. So I've got 2 right now. I've got one with a lot of damage on it, and this one's got a lot of charges on it. I just like to keep gear like that, just in case. And I'm kind of glad I kept this one, because this one I was considering getting rid of. But now that I know I can prime targets with elemental ops, it actually increases its viability. But still, even though it doesn't really do a ton of damage, you know, like compared to Last Argument. Well, let's compare it to Explosive Blaze. So even compared to Explosive Blaze does more damage. It's got a lower recharge. It's got a bigger radius. It automatically primes on its own. So like, and the Masterwork perk is just kind of weird. Because you can. Okay, so because you can use Elemental Ops to prime with it, and then you'll be getting Striker's Fury, which increases damage for your weapon and for your melee. It kind of even then, like it's still, Cold-Blooded is going to be better, because Cold-Blooded does almost the exact same thing with Striker's Strength, where Striker's Fury is weapon and melee damage for 20 seconds at 110%, where Striker's Strength is hitting an enemy with is melee for 270% for 10 seconds. I mean, I guess if you're trying to do a weapon build, this one makes sense, but weapons really aren't super useful in GM3. So I guess if you want to play around with it in GM1 and you just don't have anything better, it probably wouldn't be a bad way to go. I don't know. I don't usually mess around with weapon builds too much because I don't find a lot of I don't have a lot of fun with them. That's really why. I've got a couple weapon builds. One is on the Ranger, and I've been kind of considering using this, especially since you don't have to actually hit an enemy with it. You could just throw it at your own feet, and it automatically procs Striker's Fury. I don't think the mess works. There's just two grenades in here that work better than Grand Opening does. Both Cold-Blooded and what was it? Explosive Blaze both work better in different ways. So I definitely don't think you should waste your time with this. But okay, I'm going to end the video there because I literally have just been going on a rant. Okay, well, I hope to see you guys out in Bastion.